Unanimous consent that all members may have the 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and submit extraneous materials.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself as much time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Small businesses are the engines of our economy. Over half of the country's payroll is made from small businesses. And when we work to find solutions to help these entities, we are strengthening the economic foundation of our country. So before we start debating these bills, I wanted to thank our leadership team for recognizing the importance of small businesses and bringing these bills to the floor quickly so we can help build up Main Street America. With that, I rise in support of H.R. 400, better known as the Investing in Main Street Act. Last Congress, the Subcommittee on Capital Access held a hearing on Small Business Investment Company Program, otherwise known as the SBIC program. During this hearing, our members heard from witnesses about how this program attracts private equity investments to small businesses to hire more people and expand their operations. This is a self-sustaining program that supports our nation's job creators without costing taxpayers any money. In order to expand on this success, H.R. 400 looks to increase the maximum allowable investments by SBICs from 5% to 15% of their excess capital to small businesses. This change would allow for greater amounts of private equity dollars to go towards small businesses. Additionally, this will align the SBIC program to other financial regulations coming out of the OCC and will help jumpstart growth of small businesses across this country. And as we look for ways to continually improve on this program, this change will have an immediate impact for our jobs and our nation's job creators. So I'd like to thank my colleagues from California and New York for once again introducing this bipartisan solution to expand successful programs that empower the private sector to invest in small businesses. I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Texas reserves. The gentlewoman from New York is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume. Mr. Speaker.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the bill before us today, H.R. 400, the Investing in Main Street Act of 2023. The SBA's Small Business Investment Company Program is a multi-billion-dollar investment program designed to bridge the gap between a small business owner's need for capital and traditional sources of financing. It achieves this purpose by partnering private and public investment in early-stage startup businesses. It also gives America's small, high-growth companies an opportunity to fund and grow their innovative ideas and create jobs. The success of this program can be seen with companies like Apple, Intel, and FedEx, which all receive early-stage financing from the SBICs. In fiscal year 2021, the combined private capital and SBA-backed funds totaled $34 billion, which was the highest in program history and helped support more than 126,000 jobs. And the number of financings to women-owned, minority-owned, and veteran-owned small businesses increased by 36%. Yet, we can do more to ensure the program continues to meet demand. The Investing in Main Street Act, introduced by my colleagues, Representatives Chu and Garbarino, will strengthen and grow the SBIC program by allowing banks and federal savings associations to invest up to 15% of their capital and surplus into SBICs. This change brings the Small Business Investment Act of 1958 in line with the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency's National Bank Charter percentage requirements. It will increase the investment capital available to SBICs and allow them to invest more in small businesses. I applaud Representatives Chu and Garbarino's continued work on this issue and this bill, and I ask all my colleagues to support this bill. Thank you, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlewoman reserves. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And at this time, I'd like to yield as much time to a person who loves this country, who understands Main Street America and small businesses, Mr. Garbarino from New York.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to rise today to share my support for H.R. 400, the Investing in Main Street Act of 2023, a bill which I am proud to co-lead with Congresswoman Judy Chu. I also want to thank the chairman and the ranking member for bringing this up today. We often talk about small businesses being the backbone of the U.S. economy. This is not just a talking point, but a statement of fact. Small businesses are major contributors to our nation's overall prosperity. And in my district on Long Island, small businesses are what fuels local economic growth. As we face economic uncertainty due to inflation, labor shortages, and other ongoing challenges, we look to our small businesses to be leaders in the private sector and to help revitalize our communities. For over 60 years, the SBIC program has injected capital into small businesses by allowing financial institutions or federal savings associations to invest in SBICs up to 5%. But times change, programs need updating, and now more than ever, small businesses need access to additional capital. The increase from 5% to 15% investment stipulated in this bill is a necessary reform that will help small businesses get back on their feet. I want to thank my colleague, Congresswoman Chu, for her leadership on this issue, and I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
The gentleman from Texas reserves. The gentlewoman from New York is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentlelady from California, Ms. Chu.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
I rise in strong support of my bill, H.R. 400, the Investing in Main Street Act, which would make common sense changes to the small business investing laws to maximize the amount that banks may invest in SBA-certified small business investment companies, or SBICs. Even though banking rules allow financial institutions to invest up to 15% of their capital and surplus in SBICs, small business investing rules cap these same investments far lower at just 5%. The Investing in Main Street Act simply fixes this outdated inconsistency to allow banks to invest the full 15% in SBICs. Raising this cap will dramatically increase the amount of investment capital available to our country's small businesses, for whom even small investments can mean so much. Already, SBICs have helped companies like Costco, Apple, and Intel get off the ground back when they were just starting out. And SBICs fill a gap in the investment ecosystem and level the playing field for the smallest businesses, which often face the highest barriers to securing investments from traditional private investors. The nearly 300 certified SBICs in operation today have invested or committed $38 billion in small businesses nationwide. And last year alone, SBICs provided $7.9 billion in funding to over 1,200 small businesses and startups. By raising the investment cap from 5% to 15%, we could potentially triple those numbers in the years to come. The growth will be especially important as America's entrepreneurship rate continues to soar as we emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to thank Representative Garbarino for his partnership on this legislation, and Chairman Williams and Ranking Member Velázquez for their strong support. I urge a yes vote on this bill, and I yield back.
The gentlewoman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I have no further speakers and am prepared to close.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlewoman from New York is recognized.
She's here? Okay. Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Jackson Lee.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
I'd like to thank the ranking member of the Small Business Committee for astute work on issues dealing with small businesses, manager Mr. Williams, colleague from Texas, and the sponsors of this legislation, the bipartisan sponsors of this legislation. I have always said that small businesses are the backbone of the economic engine of America. So I rise in support of H.R. 400, Investing in Main Street Act of 2023, for the wiseness of providing more investment into small businesses. As a strong supporter of small businesses, I believe that this bill will improve the livelihood of many small businesses that have continuously been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The bill is designed to release more capital investment into small businesses in America. If you've interacted with your small business community, that is one of the #1 issues that they raise consistently. The bill would allow certain banks and savings associations to invest more into small business investment companies by increasing the statutory cap from 5% to 15%. I can't even imagine the number 5%. And the growing amount of small businesses and the ones that really stayed the course in desperate times, which was COVID-19. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, 2020 had the highest total of number of applications for new businesses by far compared to all other years. From 2019 to 2021, there are a 20% increase in the number of small businesses. And the Kauffman Foundation says that the highest amount was among blacks, Latinos, and immigrants. People know that small businesses allow them to create jobs in their own neighborhoods and to build future conglomerates. But obviously, they had negative impact due to COVID. It's important for this bill to become law immediately. Pass it in the Senate and ensure that we have the opportunity to keep our small businesses from closing. When small businesses have ideas, we need to be able to give them the investment to focus on. The Biden-Harris administration has laid the foundation, has helped create the conditions of businesses and job creation. We've had increasing job creation every month, but we do know that cities like New Orleans and Honolulu have seen highest rate of small business closures, other cities right behind. The fact that we can have a small business administration that reforms and works with the Paycheck Protection Program to improve that, if we have another circumstance like that that held up some of our small businesses, this investment is going to be a lifeline. I'm delighted to rise to support this legislation because, again, as I open my remarks, small businesses are the economic engine of America, gives women and minorities and others the opportunity to build an economic engine. I yield back.
The gentlewoman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I have no further speakers and am prepared to close.
The gentleman from Texas reserves. The gentlewoman from New York is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the SBIC program fills the gap between the availability of venture and private equity capital and the needs of small businesses in startup and growth situations. For decades, this program has channeled patient capital to leading-edge, high-growth companies. Without it, some of the nation's most successful corporations will not be the companies they are today. H.R. 400 raises the investment cap for banks and federal savings associations from 5% to 15%. This will lead to significant small business investment by SBICs, which will result in economic growth in our local communities and job creation. I want to applaud the work by Ms. Chu and Mr. Garbarino for their bipartisan work on this bill. I encourage all of my colleagues to vote yes, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman from New York yields. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
The SBIC program has delivered for small businesses for many years. It is time we update the program to match other federal rules and ensure the program continues to serve our communities in the future. This is a common-sense step to increase the amount of investment that an SBIC can receive. So I urge my colleagues to support H.R. 400, and I yield back the balance of my time.